when Super Typhoon Haiyan first struck the Philippines on November the 8th, 2013, ShelterBox response teams were already in the area responding to an earthquake that struck Bohol Island a month before. Further ShelterBox response teams were called in and spent the first couple of weeks of the disaster meeting the needs of Filipinos on outlying Bantayan Island and in southern Leyte, where homes had been completely destroyed. Having first worked with these teams, together with SRT Rachel Harvey, I went to check on the situation in Tacloban. We expected to find the enormous publicity that this town had received at the time of the typhoon would have resulted in the larger aid agencies completely meeting the needs of the local population. What we found was quite the contrary. Homes had been completely destroyed by the huge tidal surge, as well as buildings being demolished by the enormously strong 200 miles per hour plus winds that had hit the city. But almost no emergency shelter had yet been brought in. On driving through the many small community districts of the city, known locally as barangay, we were struck by the sparseness of any emergency shelter having been yet supplied to the inhabitants. Most families who had survived had either fled the city by air or were holed up in school buildings being used as emergency evacuation centres. Those that were left were still engaged in the recovery of victims from the enormous destruction the 13-foot tidal surge had claimed as it swept through the city, killing well over 5,000 people. Because ShelterBox has the autonomy to be quickly reactive, following a meeting with the Mayor's office, we immediately called in emergency aid in the form of ShelterBoxes. Through the connections of Philippine Rotarian Stephen Costillo, the first boxes followed us in by Philippine Air Force C-130 Hercules plane. These arrived the very next day after our arrival, together with 2 additional response teams.
Here we are at Tacloban Air Base, where the first 96 ShelterBoxes have come in to plug the gaps between the work that other agencies are doing to try and service the many thousands of families still without shelter. They'll be going into the city and working with Rotary, who will be moving the boxes to places where they can provide people with the adequate shelter that they need.
This was to signal the start of a very long operation to try and help those who had lost loved ones and particularly their homes. As we transported the first boxes into the city, the desolation created by the typhoon and storm surge seemed to be in direct contrast to the hope and the spirit of the crowds of homeless people who saw them. The optimism on the faces of potential beneficiaries waiting at disaster relief goods distribution sites was a truly humbling experience. This is typical of the speed with which ShelterBox is able to work, both in conjunction with bigger NGO partners and through the magnificent connections of local Rotarians. In this way, when we understand the problem, we can quickly hit the ground running.
Here we are, it's 5:45. Almost 1 month to the day from this major surge striking this community, creating all the devastation that you can see. People we just passed were from the San Jose Central School